Good morning. Welcome to my thought for the day. I'm just now in Luke chapter 6, verse 12. Verse 12 says, In these days, Jesus went out to the mountain to pray, and all night he continued in prayer to God. And when it was day, he called his disciples and chose from them 12, whom he named apostles. And then the 12 are listed. I've had two thoughts just as I've been reading these rich verses. They're so rich, these verses. Jesus went to the mountain to pray. It's very interesting that he did that. He could have gone into the synagogue. It would have been open during the week for access. Or he could have gone, he didn't live very near to Jerusalem, so that's possibly why he didn't go to the temple. But he could have left choosing his disciples until such a time as when he was in Jerusalem for a feast and spend time in the temple. It's interesting that Jesus did not seek God in a place we would think of as being a especially holy place. A lot of people think if you want to find God, you go into a church or a cathedral. And many people do find God there because he is there. And places that have been full of prayer for years, even centuries, have a special atmosphere. There's no doubt about that. But Jesus went onto a mountain to pray. And he prayed all night. And there aren't many incidences when Jesus spent a whole night in prayer. But they were at times that were very important for him. This night of prayer was before he chose out of all his disciples. He had a lot of disciples, people following him, quite a lot. It says he called his disciples and chose from them 12. So there were quite a number of people who were following Jesus as disciples at that point. And he chose out of them 12 to be apostles and called them apostles, which means sent out ones. It was a different term. We're all disciples, but we may not all be apostles. There are some people who think that apostles have to be people who shared the ministry with Jesus, that you couldn't be an apostle if you didn't share the ministry with Jesus. But there is an exception to that, of course, and that is Paul. And Paul does write that God gave to the church apostles and teachers. And some people believe the apostle designation still carries forward, and some people feel it applies only to those who actually physically knew Jesus and spent time with him. And I don't want to argue either way for that. I don't want you to get caught up in that. There's nothing to worry about. But what is important is to realize that Jesus spent a long time praying about the important decisions of his life. And we should do the same. The really important decisions of our life, like, I don't know what it might be, like, who shall I marry? Where shall I live? I want to go into ministry. What sort of ministry do I want to go into? I feel I want to change churches. Which church should I go to? We should spend a lot of time in prayer, asking for God's wisdom and seeking his face for the things that are big decisions in our lives. And if we are uncertain or unhappy about anything, we shouldn't pursue it. And as we spend time and give God time to speak to us about these things. I mean, the astonishing thing about this really is that having spent all night praying, Jesus still included Judas Iscariot as one of the 12 that he chose, because it was right to choose him. We know with hindsight that he became a traitor, and God knew he was going to, but it was part of the plan for the life of Jesus. And Jesus wanted to be sure of each one of these people that he chose, these 12. But it is this thought, first two thoughts here, really. Just the first thought that Jesus, when he spent time in prayer, and we think of another time in the garden when he prayed at great length that night in the garden before his betrayal. That was a significant night for him. And there is a record of Jesus going up into the hills again to pray when he heard that John the Baptist had been beheaded. So there are instances when significant things were happening in his life, and he spent a long time in prayer, aligning his thinking and his mind with the mind of the Father. And we need it more than he ever did. We need much more than he did to know from God what we should or shouldn't do and how we should do things. And major decisions, do not make any major decisions without spending a great deal of time in prayer. And when you make major decisions, I'm sure you talk it over with family and friends. And if you do, you need to spend at least the same amount of time, if not twice or three times as much, speaking to God about major decisions. These are important issues, And prayer is not, I don't think prayer is simply speaking by rote. I think it is something else. I think it is spending time giving God a chance, saying, Lord, I need your wisdom about this situation. I need to know your way forward. I need to know what you want me to do. I've got to stop now. I'm going to cough. God bless you. Bye-bye.